looks like the stream went offline for a little bit because my ISP is absolutely terrible. Alright, looks like we're ready to go again. Everything should be back. This will just be a part 2 of the video. This is what I was afraid would happen at some point, is my stream would go offline. Which means we've started part 2. Welcome to part 2 of the video for those of you on YouTube. Because of course my stream is cut up into multiple parts now. It's really annoying. But it's just kind of a side effect of having a terrible internet service provider. Which, if you can avoid it, of course you want to avoid it, but sometimes it's mostly unavoidable, so... Alright, from here, he's unpaused, and I'm droning out my third base, but from here I need to determine exactly what tech he's going for. I'm going to go for my Overlord speed. I have my Evo Chambers on the way. I have 3 gas geysers, which are pretty big commitment to gas income. And I have my third base droned up. So, I have Zerglings outside. I want to have a Zergling outside his base. He only got that +1 attack upgrade. He's not getting +1 armor right now. Otherwise, he would be upgrading. I'm going for my +1 ranged attack and my missile attacks and my +1 carapace upgrade effectively. I have my... I'm going to get a Spore Crawler in each mineral line just as a base because he did have that Stargate. So I don't know exactly how many Spore Crawlers I'm going to need, but at least 1 to defend against Oracles, defend against Phoenixes. Void Rays usually take a little bit more because they do a lot of extra damage, but from here, I'm just going to be using my Overlord speed, which I just finished up, and scouting in to see exactly what I'm up against. I'm not going to be building anything more until that point. I have my lair done. I'm going to get my Roach speed and my Hydra done. But I don't know... Well, looks like we got double Stargate Void Ray. Okay. I'm comfortable going for another base. Oh, looks like he has a little bit of everything right now. So Roach Hydra is going to be my go-to unit composition. Definitely going to need those Hydras out. And also I'm going to get a decent chunk of Queens. Why? Because Void Rays are actually very good against Hydras. Hydras don't really... They're on the ground. They can't clump up like Void Rays can. They can't all fire as easily at once against the Void Rays. So I want to add some Queens in. Why? Because Queens only cost minerals. They don't cost gas. So I can make a lot extra of them with a lot of mineral income. And they also benefit from the same upgrades. So, with that, I can put together a good anti-Void Ray composition that isn't as vulnerable. And that's what I'm putting together right now. Got another Queen on the way. I have a 4th base on the way as well. And I want to go for my Hydras and my Queens first, because Roaches are both cheap, quicker to build, and fill in my supply leg. If I have any extra larvae left over, any money left over, then I make Roaches. But right now I'm just dealing with the Void Rays because he has a very severe commitment to Void Rays, as in 2 Stargates. That's quite the commitment. Gonna be going for my 2-2. Gonna be droning up my bases. But he's not going for a 3rd base, so I don't want to overdo it. Like 70 drones, that's about as many as I want to go to right now. I don't want to oversaturate my bases. If I have more than 20 drones at every base, I've made too many drones. Right now, all 3 bases are saturated. I have a 4th base up. That's the best I need right now. I don't want to get too crazy, because if I get too crazy, I'm going to get my Hydra speed as well. Then he could hit an attack timing that could easily kill me. So I'm going to be sending some Overlords in towards his base. Going to be adding on some more Hydras here. Just going to be adding a handful of drones towards this base. Nothing crazy. But it looks like he wants to go for a 3rd. This is the timing. I want to try to max out by my 2-2 upgrades. Because if there's one thing he's not going to have, it's very good upgrades. Why is that? Because he's so focused on tech. He has a Robo, and he also has... He has a Robo as well as double Stargate. So with that, he's not going to be able to easily have very many upgrades. So with my upgrades, my units are going to be really cost efficient. I've started adding in Roaches now to fill out the rest of my supply. Wait, how many Void Rays are we up against? 4 or 5 Void Rays? Okay, how many Hydras do I have? That's a decent Hydra chunk. Oh, looks like he wants to attack in. So instead of attacking into him, I'm going to play a little bit defensive while I'm maxed out. I'm going to focus on droning up my 4th base a little bit. But my supply is going to be maxed out, and from here, I'm just focusing on getting my injects down, getting my creep spread. Oh, looks like he is taking this base, but he was making pylons across the map just to have a potential threat. Okay. Gonna get my Roaches, going to max out now. the 14-minute mark is a decent, I'd say about 15 minutes if you haven't been touched with Roach Hydra is a very decent time to max out if you're capable of doing so. So, gonna get my Infestation Pit because the biggest threat to this unit composition is Colossus. If he can get a lot of Colossus out very quickly, well, not very quickly, but just a lot of Colossus out, I need Vipers. I need Vipers. Corruptors will not be very good here because he has the Void Rays to tank for his Colossus. His Void Rays will both screw with my AI, and they will tank for the Colossus pretty well. So, I don't want to do that. I'm going to go for a macro hatchery now. Why? Because I have a lot of minerals left over. I'm also going to get a 5th base up. But from here, I want to just get a very good concave, and I'm going to use multi-pronged attacks. Well, let me get some creep spreading overlords towards his base so I can get my queens in there. But the longer I wait now, the tougher it's going to be. Well, let me get my hive up here. The longer I wait to attack, the tougher it's going to be because I've maxed out. He hasn't maxed out yet. His army will only get stronger the longer I wait. I have a very mid-game oriented army. What does that mean? This army wants to fight and it wants to trade. And it looks like it's going to start doing just that right now. I have a lot of Hydras in the back. I'm just continually transfusing them. I want to get under that. I got rid of his potential recall here. And I'm going to be moving through. I have Hydra speed. I'm remaking Hydras because I lost barely any of my roaches. But I was able to get in position with this. And from here, I should be able to take down the majority of the Void Rays. And he just kind of walked into a less than ideal engagement. And because I had the right unit composition to deal with it, I was able to move through. And there's the GG. Alright guys, now it's time for that game just came down to I was continually scouting. I saw he was going for the Void Rays. I knew I could hit a timing when his 3rd base was coming up when he wouldn't be maxed out. I need to hit him before he maxed out because my unit composition is supply inefficient. Roach Hydra, it takes a lot of supply for a comparatively small amount of army. Especially the roaches. They're not very supply efficient compared to other units. So you want to be trading. You want to be continually throwing units at them and replacing those units so that way you can make your units a little bit more efficient in the long run. But now it's time for questions. I'm going to be going through questions in the chat. I'm going to be going through questions on Reddit as well as in the chat. Alright, let's take a look. Unless scouting information in ZVP indicates, how can you tell they're doing some specific kind of all-in or when to expect aggression? Well, we went over some of that in the last couple games, but some general rules. Always have a Zergling in position. If he's going for +1 at a forge before 7 minutes, that could indicate some early aggression. At that point, you can send your Overlord in at about 6:30 to 7:30, so that way you can see, oh, is he going for a Stargate or a Robo, or is something else behind this? If he doesn't have 2 gases at the natural, by about 6:30, 7 minutes, that can indicate a Gateway all-in, or possibly taking a 3rd base. Some other all-ins, a quick Robo between 6:15 and 7 minutes, can usually indicate an Immortal Sentry all-in or a potential Colossus attack. And of course, double Stargate is double Stargate, he's going to go for a lot of air units. There are a lot of different splits, but off of a Forge Fasted Span, you're a pretty cut and dry scouting pass you can see based on your Overlord scouts. Off of a Gated Span, if he has 3 gateways at the front, then you can usually tell he's going to try to do a gateway attack to pressure your 3rd base. And if you're taking a 3rd base as a Zerg player, maybe it's a little bit vulnerable, maybe it's tough to hold. You have to kind of steel yourself against that and know you need to make units early on. If he's going for a gated span and he doesn't have a bunch of gates at the front, or you scout in a little bit earlier, like 6 minutes to 6:30, which you should be doing, then you can maybe determine maybe he's going for a Stargate, or maybe he's going for a lot of sentries. You can determine that by attacking into the front, or, well, not attacking, but sending your Zerglings into the front to see a sentry count, or whether he's going for a forge or any other tech buildings. So, alright. Zerg, how to hotkey queens and do injects faster. How hotkey the hatches and the queens. I use camera location injects. I actually have a video on that elsewhere on my YouTube channel, so I won't go over it now, but I'll probably link it in the comments now that we've been over this. How do you select a large group of units and remove the ones you don't want? You just box all the units, and you have to, well, effectively shift-click out each of the units, and then re-hotkey the units. You have to do it manually. There's no easy way to say, well, just get rid of all of these units, so it's pretty much manual. You have to. There's no easy way to do it. unless you're just hotkeying certain groups. What I like to do sometimes, like to just hotkey all my Zerglings and Banelings and not my Mutalisks, I control click all my Zerglings, and then press Control 1, and then I control click all my Banelings, and then press Shift 1, so that way all my Zerglings and Banelings are in the same hotkey. Even if there are Mutalisks above them, or Overlords or something, they don't get hotkeyed in, which is a little bit convenient. Alright. Elaborate on Overlord scouting. Considering it's easy to wall against Zergling scouts and the cost on minerals, larvae, and supply of Overlords, how easy is it to position defenses to kill them? When is it okay to trade the cost for scouting? How do you determine that? Thanks in advance for answers. Overlord scouting, your general rule is you have Overlords in position. If you looked at that last ZVP game, you saw I had Overlords in position to sacrifice into his base between 6 and 7 minutes. Even if he has units in position to defend them, the fact that he has units and what units those are is pretty important. And between Zergling scouting and Overlord scouting, if he's completely shutting you out, you can go for Overlord speed pretty early on. It's a very quick upgrade. It's only a minute. It only costs 100 gas. It's very good. But otherwise, you should be able to sacrifice your Overlords in most matchups between 6 and 7 minutes to determine what tech they're going for. And especially on 2-player maps, you can have them in position very easily. Zerg seems so incredibly reactive. That is why I enjoy them the most. Counts evolution and whatnot, but I am fairly new and in bronze, and what should I know how I don't know how I should be scouting is what I get from this. Problem is, even when I do scout, I have such a goddamn horrible time changing what I'm doing based on the enemy player. How do you manage scouting and changing armies often? It's pretty tough. As a general rule, you always want to have 1 or 2 units like outside their base just waiting to see when they're moving out with their army. Just no matter what. If it dies, you send another unit out. As a general rule, you make sure your army's in a position where it's useful. Either at a watchtower or outside a base that you need to defend. But once that happens, you go back and inject. You prioritize a general rule when you're injecting. I think I went over this in my first tutorial. But when you're injecting, what you should be thinking about, well, to inject or to go produce units, before you decide to fight, especially if you have the watchtowers, you have Overlords in position, or you have a Zergling outside where his army's going to be moving out, then what you should be doing is saying, okay, I don't need to attack right now, I can spend 10 seconds, go back and inject, go back, make some units, make sure all my drones are on my gas geysers, make sure I'm spreading my creep, and that'll, in the long run, you'll gain a lot more time doing that than you would if you attacked 10 seconds earlier. You don't need to attack the second you see an opportunity. Before you attack, think, am I injecting? Am I producing units? Am I producing drones if I can behind this attack? And just make sure you always have units in position and thinking about what you should be doing before you attack instead of just 1Aing the second you see the opportunity. It's really important to learn as Zerg, especially as Zerg, because their units, in the actual fight, don't require quite as much micromanaging. That's why the Zerg is called the 1A race, because as long as you have your units in position, it's not as important to control them in the fight. But the hard part of Zerg is going back and making sure you have reinforcements. You're constantly keeping up on your production and your injects. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to deal with the reinforcements of your opponent because you don't have the production back at home. That's just a habit to get into, is always scouting your opponent's army, having something outside, and having your units in important position, and waiting a few seconds before an attack in order to maximize your production. Alright. That'll about do it for the questions. We're going to be going over one more game here, hopefully a Zerg versus Terran game, but we'll have to see what the ladder gives us here. In ZVT, when can you drone and when you can make units? I guess we'll go over this to start. Before we get in this game. Well, hopefully we get a Zerg versus Terran, but when to drone and when to make units, just a general rule. You can drone either whenever your opponent is expanding, or whenever you've scouted what attack they're doing and how to defend it. So, what does that mean? If you have your Overlord in position to see their third base and they don't have a third base, and you have 3 bases, and you've already droned up 2 of your bases, it's not time to drone your third base. It's time to make units to defend an attack, or keep him from getting a third base. On the other hand, if you see he's making a third command center, for example, or he's going for a third base and he's moving out with units to cover that third base, you make enough units to defend the attack and then you start droning again, because you know he's just trying to expand. This all comes down to being on top of scouting information, on top of knowing when he's going to attack and when he wants to expand, or when he wants to do both, for example. But once again, most of Starcraft comes down to scouting information, especially Zerg. You can't just blindly say, alright, at 5 minutes you make a few units, and at 6 minutes you drone, at 7 minutes you make more units. that does not work in 100% of situations. So you got to keep tabs on what your opponent is doing, on when he's expanding, when he's attacking, and what he's teching to. So, alright, this is going to be a Zerg versus Zerg game. I'm going to be sending my first Overlord out and my second Overlord towards his potential third base and also other counterattack path. Remember, there is a gold base in this map. This is a little bit of a more interesting map because there are different third base locations than there usually are. There are a couple extra options. Not all maps have the extra options that this map does have. So, alright, just going to be going for the 15 pool. Make sure I don't die to Zerglings. And from here, going to be getting my gas geyser. Going to go down for my expansion. He scouted early on. He wants to know what I'm doing. He's going to see no early pool. Usually, if you see a drone scout early on, that does not indicate he wants to put a spine crawl in your base, but instead indicates he wants to do something greedy. He wants to take an expansion. He wants to be safe. Of course, drone scouting is the safest way to be in pretty much any matchup. But here, it's most likely going to indicate a hatch first. His Overlord is actually scouting in early on. Oh, no hatch first. He doesn't even have a hatchery down. So what am I thinking right now? Okay. Oh, there's a hatchery. A little bit later than mine, but he probably has a spawning pool out first because it came out at almost an identical timing to mine. Actually, a little bit later. So the only rationale for him having it later than me is that he made a spawning pool. So I can almost guarantee that there's a spawning pool on the way. Or already completed at this point. So I'm not sending my Overlord into his main base, but instead I'm just going to hold it outside his natural in order to make sure I know whenever any units are coming out. Alright. Actually, I'm going to keep 3 in gas here in order to get my main lane nest out pretty quickly, because since he went for a pool possibly earlier, or even a gas geyser earlier, he has a lot of potential to have units out earlier, so I gotta have my defenses back at home. I gotta have all the tools in place in order to defend. Like, I'm not committing the Zerglings right now, I'm not making a bunch of Zerglings, but I want to have the ability to if I need to, and that's why I'm getting the main lane nest up. Wait, how much has he mined? He has mined just enough to get Zergling speed right now. He hasn't mined any extra gas, so that means he could... Oh, he's making a lot of Zerglings, too. If he makes Zerglings out of these eggs here, he's just doing a Zergling all-in, which means I need to have the tools to defend it. Looks like he made 2 more Zerglings? Yes. He wants to attack me with Zerglings. That is his build. I'm going to make a single set of Lings. I'm making a couple extra drones. Why? Because I'm investing in defenses. I'm not playing aggressive, I'm playing defensive. I have this Overlord in position. From here, I can't underreact, though. I cannot underreact. If I underreact, that's one way to lose the game. But I just want to play defensive. I'm making Zerglings of my own, but I have a Bentley nest up. He's going to have speed out possibly quicker. But with a base up a little bit quicker, a little bit more investment in drones, and if he's been constantly making Zerglings this entire time, I made 4 or 5 extra drones. That means my economy is slightly bigger. It's not a huge difference, but in this matchup, inches are miles, pretty much. So I want to play a defensive Baneling game. What does that mean? I have my Banelings on the high ground. If he wants to attack him with Zerglings, he's going to have to come up a ramp into Banelings. So now I'm droning. Now I am droning. Well, let's see how many Zerglings he has coming across here. But if I have a handful of Banelings, that's all I really need. Gonna pull back here. This Overlord is going towards this third base in order to see what he's up to. And behind this, I'm confident I can just defend. No matter what he comes out with right now, no matter how many Zerglings, I already have enough Zerglings back at home to make enough Banelings to defend. I'm actually going to send a couple of my Zerglings out in order to scout whether he's going for roaches, because that is the only thing that can threaten me right now. Alright. He has a single Zergling. He's doing that. He's doing what I've said to do. Remember, guys, always have that Zergling outside his base. Even in this matchup, even in Zerg versus Zerg, it's good to have the Zergling outside his base. From here, I'm going to be going for Lair, and I'm going to be going for Mutalisk. This is a little bit different than the other Zerg versus Zerg game, because we started out with Ling Baneling versus Ling... Oh! Wait a second. He is going for double Evil Chamber with upgrades. What does that mean? He wants to go for ground unit, so I'm adapting my plan. I'm going for Roach Warren, and I'm going to go for double Evil Chamber as well. A little bit later, though. Why? Because I'm going to have map control. I'm going to have map control. I'm going to have a third base. I'm going to take the gold base. But I got to know what he's doing. I have to have an idea of what he's coming out with first. I'm just making drones. I'm going to transfer a lot of drones to this gold base because it has that extra boost in minerals that you get from the gold base. You get about 25% more minerals per patch. You get 7 minerals per mineral return instead of 5 at a gold base, which is a pretty big deal. But I have to know exactly what I'm coming up against here beforehand. Let's see. Does he have a spire? Looks like he's going for roaches. So he's going for roaches, and I'm going for roaches. So not too much of a divergence. I'm getting my roach speed. It's a little bit later, so I have to play defensive. I have to know when he's making units. But I just saw right now, I have my changeling in position to see when he's rallying drones in and when he's making roaches. This is actually really important. I have this changeling here. So I see, if I start making roaches when he starts making roaches, well, a little bit later is fine. Then I should have enough roaches to defend with the help of this third base. I want to get a decent chunk of drones there so I can really start to have that extra mineral mining kick in. I actually want to saturate that base before any other base, pretty much. Because that mineral mining is so important to my defense right now. Gonna get a few more drones, but he started making roaches. Oh, I might have actually over-droned a little bit. I'm actually gonna cancel some of my drones right now in order to start producing roaches. Otherwise, I will not have enough roaches by the time he comes out to attack. You notice how he's just making a bunch of roaches now? I actually want to get a spine crawler up here. I have a spine crawler up here, but I don't have my 1-1 upgrades yet. So I have to play very careful. I have decent roach production, but I don't have amazing roach production. I'm actually going to get another queen out here. I want to deal with... Oh, don't want to show him my roaches. But right now, I see exactly what he's doing. I see he has roaches. I see what I need to defend with. I'm going to get another changeling in here. But he has a lot of roachling. So I can't get supply blots. I'm actually going to get some creep tumors down here. I have another changeling in with his roaches. I'm going to move my spine crawler down onto this creep I'm spreading. And I'm actually going to spread some more creep. But this way I can make my spine crawlers useful. Looks like he's about to attack across. What are my advantages here? I have a few extra minerals from that gold base. I have a little bit more production. So I'm going to turn that into spine crawlers for static defense. I have my 1-1 upgrades finishing, so I should be even on upgrades. My roach speed is done. It just comes down to number. It's a numbers game now. But with the help of the banelings, I should be able to drive this back. And he doesn't have a third base, and that's extremely important right now. Losing the queen. Oh, didn't quite lose the queen, but I have a changeling on it. And because of that changeling, I was able to make just enough roaches. Just enough. In order to defend that queen. Alright. More overlords coming out. He does have that 1-1. But most importantly, he doesn't have a third base. The all-important third base in this matchup. So I just sit back and I defend. Alright, I have my creep spread here. This is the situation where creep spread is benefiting me because I'm defensively postured and he's aggressively postured. So if the creep spread's only for me, like right now, if he attacks in, he doesn't have creep spread. But I do, so that means my units are a lot more mobile. Okay, he's going for a third base. Once that third base is pretty much finished, I want to attack, but not until that point, because at that point he'll be maximally vulnerable. He's gone for the maximum amount of economy with the least amount of... Oh, infestors. Alright. How do I exploit these infestors? I need to have a good concave, and I need to know when his units are coming in. That's the best way to do it. I'm going to be transitioning into more upgrades. Actually going to get a little bit more... Now that I've gotten the gas here, I'm going to be going for my upgrades. I'm actually going to split off a handful of roaches in order to counterattack this base. Oh, looks like he's up here. I don't think he knows about the gold base yet. I'm actually just going to counterattack with these roaches. And go for my burrow upgrade momentarily. He might have burrow as well, so I'm actually going to get overseers here. Oh! Fungals coming in. I want to make sure I get a nice concave here, because the... Oh! Not quite enough infestors to make a decent chunk of fungals. But now I brought the roaches back from going towards his third base. I'm going to get a nice surround. And that's going to be the end of the game. Just making sure when he has infestors, when he has better tech, and you're going for roaches against a, say, roach hydra or roach infestor composition, you need to have a better fight. You need to take a fight where you're getting a better angle on his units than he's getting on your units, because his splash damage and his superior tech will kick in even higher gear if he has a better engagement. So, alright. Well, that was the end of this tutorial. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Went over a little bit more advanced concepts, a little bit higher, well, slightly higher level games than the last time. But hopefully you learned something. Make sure to subscribe, like, do all the other YouTube things, and leave comments and criticism in... check out the live stream, of course, at any point. But leave comments and criticism in the comments below. What you want to see for the next tutorial, which will be coming out in the near future as well. But thanks everyone for watching. Good luck, have fun, and go play some games. Apply what you've hopefully learned here today. But thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.